everyone, welcome to today's One Card Wonder Wednesday. We're going to make a card using one of the new stamp sets in the catalog that I think is fantastic. It's called Here's to Strong Women, and I chose this stamp set just because it was one that I had liked in the catalog and I had ordered, but I'm dedicating this card to my friend Rebecca Smith because she has had just a crazy week of lots of weird things happening to her. So I wanted to dedicate this card to her. Hi, Mitch and Jamie. I don't know who's watching. I'm assuming it's Jamie. So anyway, this is the stamp set. It's called Here's to Strong Women, and we're going to use the You've Got This Girl and Here's to Strong Women. But seriously, one of my favorite sentiments in this stamp set is you deserve a whole sheet of gold stars. I just think that's great. And then, of course, you got the stars. Courage is your superpower, and way to go. And then, because I always combine stamp sets, I'm also using the chicken wire stamp set all wired up for the background. So here is the card we are making, and I kind of wanted to do it with superhero colors just because this stamp set reminds me of superhero-ish things. So this is the card. I'm going to set it aside and we will immediately get started, and I will show you what we are going to do. So first thing we're going to do is we are going to use the Versamark, and we are going to use the brand new Shimmer White embossing powder. Hi Katie, how are you? And of course, when you use Versamark, you can look at my pad. It's kind of, a little dingy and whatever, but it's basically a clear. But of course, like I said, because this one's been used a lot, it's not necessarily clear anymore because sometimes you accidentally set a stamp on it that is not clean, and that's what happens. But that's definitely what I've done with mine for sure. All right, so first use your what's this called, embossing buddy, and it's got like a powder in it, and that will take the static off from your paper so you don't have embossing powder sticking where you don't want it. Hi Kelly, how are you? And then we're going to take that all wired up stamp, and I've already got it adhered to a block, and just ink it up really good with your Versamark ink. But I did find, because I did it on several sheets of paper earlier, even if you don't get it perfect and you got some bare spots, it turns out looking kind of cute. So then just flip your big stamp over, and you don't even have to necessarily worry about this being straight unless that is exactly how you want it. And if you want it straight, I would definitely set it on a piece of lined paper so you know exactly that it's going to be straight. So just take your Shimmer Emboss powder, and I just cover like some at the top, and then lift it up, and you can see it coating it as it goes down on all those little. Now this one's kind of messy to work with, but any embossing powder is, but this one, because you're going edge to edge, definitely. So I'm just going to set that out of the way, and I will clean that up later. But look at the Shimmer Embossing powder. Like, look at the shimmer that's in that. It's really gorgeous. And if you compare it to just the plain white, I mean, you can definitely see the huge difference. It's got all those glimmery colors in it, which is great. It's kind of like iridescent in it. All right, and then because your heat gun is going to get super hot, I just hold it down, like hold the edge down with a paper piercing tool. Now this is going to get loud because the heat tool is loud. I need to heat it up for a few seconds before I hold it over. Hopefully you can still hear me. If you can still hear me, let me know. Now I did find too, this one is not as easy to tell when it's melting just because of the different, with the glittery colors plus the white, you can't see it as good. So I just made sure I went over it really good a couple of times just to make sure it was done, because I had a couple that I did do and I ended up touching them, and then I got embossing powder all over myself because I apparently hadn't gotten a couple of spots melted all the way. Hi Becca, how are you? Hi Debbie and Fran. Thank you all for watching. So as I said, this is the all wired up stamp. We did it with Versamark, and we are using the shimmery white embossing powder on it. And like I said, you just gotta really make sure you go over it good to make sure it's all melted. Cause see, I just saw that one spot, it was right there, and it just looked silver. It didn't look like there was any white in it. So that's kind of a way to tell too. If it just looks glittery, but there's no white at all, then your white has not melted, and you're just gonna have that glitter stuff. And even though I've gone over this a couple of times, I'm still seeing a couple of spots that I didn't quite get, even though, like I said, I went over them several times. But there, I think I have it now. And if I don't, we're gonna go with it anyway, and I'm gonna end up with embossing powder all over myself, which, whatever, wouldn't be the first time. So the next thing I did was, first I'm gonna get some of that embossing powder off from here that I got on here. Go ahead and put some dimensionals on the back of this, because this will be our first layer on the card. And I absolutely love this new shimmer embossing powder. I've got the black and the white, and I love them both. And now some people will look at that and they'll be like, oh, but it's just silver. But it's really not silver. I actually stamped some stars from the set, and I did them, the top row is the shimmery white and the bottom row is the silver. So I mean, there is a huge difference. It's not just silver. So especially if you do it on a piece of paper that has some color to it, you can tell the difference. So now that we have that, we will go ahead and take our real red cardstock, which I cut at 4 1/4 by 11, and I go ahead and just fold that in half. And I did score it, you know, but I like to use my bone folder as well, just to make sure you get a good crease. Hi Chrissy, how are you? Thank you, Fran. I think it's pretty too. I really love that white with all that shimmer in it. It's really pretty. So that's our first layer. The next thing we're going to do is just take this piece of Whisper White that is 2 inches wide by 4 1/2 inches. I guess I better cover up my Versamark real quick before I end up drying it out. And I stamped with Real Red. And we are going to use the You've Got This Girl, and just make sure it's inked up really good, because you want to make sure you don't have to restamp. I mean, you can always flip it over, but it's always nice to get it on the first try. And I bring it toward the top of that piece of Whisper White. And if your T is cut off a little bit, that's okay, not a big deal, because we're just going to be layering it onto some Pacific Point in a minute anyway. And the next thing, of course, we know how much I love this. What is in here? I have some kind of embellishment inside this. My triple banner punch. And I just bring it all the way in, all the way to that end before I punch. And then I did another small embossing piece using this, and I am just going to quickly rub it with the embossing buddy at the bottom here. And I don't want to necessarily stick it in that embossing powder that I already have, so I'll kind of trickle it down that way. And we're going to do the stars this time, and they are also going to be done in the shimmery white, and I'm inking it with the Versamark. I know you can see that, but I just inked it with the Versamark that was off the out of camera sight there. And since I do have a lot on here, I'm just gonna kind of flip it up onto my piece instead of dumping more. And then we'll go ahead and get that melted as well. And it is easier to see it melting when you've got, like, this is obviously the stars is a little bit bigger than all of those small pieces for the chicken wire there. So you can see it a little better, but it still does take some time to get it to melt all the way. And it's probably hard for you to see on camera, but I can see as it's melting. But it's one of those things that it's just sweetly satisfying to watch. There's a little corner right there, I might need it. Get my heat tool turned off there. And there, so then you got those awesome little stars. Now I have a piece of Daffodil Delight, and I cut it using the Starburst punch, which is another one of my favorites. And then this piece of Pacific Point is 4 3/4 long by 2 1/4 wide. And that's going to be right about here on the card. And I want to make sure my Starburst goes up a little bit higher. So I'm just going to put some adhesive on it and just set it on here for now, even though this isn't stuck yet. Just so I know it's going to go off that edge a little bit. I'm going to put some more dimensionals on the back of this because, again, we like dimensionals. And we're going to put dimensionals on the back of the Pacific Point too. So this is a little bit thicker card, so if you're going to be mailing it, you know, you might have to put a little bit of extra postage on it, but it's totally worth it. And I think with the sentiment that we're putting on this, this could be for any occasion where you've got a friend, girlfriend, a sister, a daughter, a mother, anyone who's going through a little bit of a hard time. It doesn't even have to be anything major. Oh my gosh, maybe they're just taking a test next week. Maybe they just need some encouragement. This is a fantastic set to do encourage other women with, which I think is great, because I think we as women don't encourage each other enough. We find each other cutting other people down, and I'll be honest, I've done that too. And I'm not perfect, and I may do it again. But I try not to. I'm trying to be a better person. So I'm going to use the red rhinestones, and I'm going to put one little rhinestone in each of these stars because I just thought it went so great with this, with using the real red paper and all the sparkle that's already on here, and it just gives it just a little bit extra. I did look at the Proud Peak, I think they're called Proud Peacock rhinestones or Noble Peacock, and I was going to use the Blueberry Bushel because they were pretty close to looking like the Pacific Point, but I just thought the red looked better. So I'm like, I'll just stick with the red ones. So I mean, if you make the card, you can do whatever you want, and you can do silver ones. It really doesn't matter. Whatever you want to use is perfect. So put some more dimensionals on the back of this. We'll get the front of the card done, and then we'll do our sentiment on the inside. And we will be finished with this card. It's a pretty quick one. Nothing too crazy. I mean, the embossing takes the longest time. And for me, embossing is one of those things that if I'm going to do it, I want to do more than one card. So I have a couple more of these already embossed, so I can make a couple more of these cards later. Because who doesn't want to get one of these cards in the mail? I think it would be fantastic. Okay, so our sentiment is, here's to strong women, and we're going to do that in real red again, just like we did. Make sure we get it in our center of our piece of Whisper White that is 5 1/4 by 4 inches wide. Get some adhesive on the back of it. I can still feel embossing powder. This is why I don't emboss all the time, because it's kind of gritty, and even with the tray, you still end up with embossing powder in other places. Usually on my hands. Sometimes I can feel it on my jeans later because I've wiped my hands on my jeans, because that's the kind of girl I am. I am not super fancy. If anybody knows me, they know that. Oh, Brenda would love one. Yay! Well, Brenda, you might just get one. All right, so this says, you've got this, girl. And then we've got here's to strong women on the inside. I had a great time making this card. I thought it was just a fun card to make. And again, here's the stamp set. Here's to strong women. And I use the all wired up for the background, because I don't know if you have this yet, but if you don't, both of these are fantastic. You need them both. You need to buy both of them. They're great. Pretty simple. I kind of did it, like I said, with superhero colors is what I would call it, with the yellow, red, and blue. Those are just iconic superhero colors. So thank you for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I will post a photo of this in a few minutes so you can get a better look at it, and I will see you next Wednesday. Bye.